Welcome to the video lecture series on the course named Problem Solving and Programming in C. In this session, we will see various programs that can be implemented using two-dimensional arrays. This is part 3 of the hands-on session on arrays. Let us get started. To demonstrate the programs on 2D arrays, I am now in Fedora operating system. We will be discussing these problems for today's session. The first program is write a C program to find the transpose of a matrix. What do you mean by transpose of a matrix? It is given by provided the matrix M is of the order ij, the transpose of the matrix will be ji. What do you mean by this? Suppose we imagine the matrix of a two-dimensional grid. It will look like this. It's a table of m rows and n columns. For simplicity's sake, I have taken 4 rows and 4 columns. So in this case, m is 4 and n is 4. So m represents the number of rows in that matrix and n represents number of columns in the matrix. What do you mean by transpose of a matrix? Provided that I have an element here, the transposed matrix will contain the element whose rows and column indices are exchanged. These values that you are seeing here are the index values. You might ask why I have started the values from 0. The reason is because I want to visualize this matrix as a two-dimensional array, and array indexing always starts from 0. You can recollect the video on programs on patterns wherein I had tried to represent the same kind of representation of a table. However, I had taken I and j as ones for generating patterns. Here I cannot take I and j as 1 as a starting value because array index always starts from 0. So provided an element here, the transposed version of this element will be I equal to 1, j equal to 0. That means to find the transpose of a matrix, just exchange their row and column indices. So an element at I equal to 1, j equal to 2, the transposed version of the matrix contains the same element at I equal to 2 and j equal to 1. Note that the elements in the matrix that come in this section referred to as principal diagonal element or primary diagonal element. They don't change, their position remains same in the transpose version. Hence, the formula is represented by T of Ji equal to M of Ij. So M of Ij is the original matrix. The transpose version will contain the exchanged values of J and I. Here I represents the index for rows. So you can see here in this entire row, the value of I remains same, which is 0. Same thing in the second row, third row and fourth row. And also j value represents the column. So this is in this column j value remains same, which is 0. In this j value remains 1, 2 and 3. So like this, by representing two index values, I can totally visualize the matrix as a two-dimensional array. So let us try to write a program for this problem definition. So we will have to input a matrix of any arbitrary order m cross n. So please note that to find the transpose of a matrix, we need not have to have a square matrix. Even the transpose for a non-square matrix is also possible. So let us try to write a program for this. I'm going to name this program as transpose.c. I'll include some necessary header files. Int main. This program requires me to input only one matrix, so I'm going to create a two-dimensional matrix. So to create a two-dimensional matrix, I had to specify two subscript operators one after the other. This means I am creating a two-dimensional array which can be used to implement a matrix. So the matrix has number of rows. So let the value of m represent the number of rows and let the value of n represent number of columns. I need I and j as variables, and I also need another matrix, say transpose tr, to store the transpose version of the element. In this case, I am using, as usual, to read the elements into a matrix, the runtime initialization of the matrix. Hence, I'll be requesting the user to enter the order of the matrix. Enter the order of the matrix. What does the order means? They have to specify the value of m and n. Scanf %d, 2%ds. You can also ask the user to enter the row separately and column separately as two separate pair of printf and scanf statements. I am going to show this way. So here, after this, you have to read the elements into the matrix. Printf enter %d elements into the matrix. Now in this case, since suppose you have entered an order as m as 4 and n as n, so there will n as 4, so there will be totally 16 elements. So this %d should be replaced with m star n. M star n. I'll now go ahead with initializing the matrix using runtime initialization. I equal to 0, I less than m, because outermost loop represents the rows and innermost loop represents the column. So j, second for loop represents the column, j less than n, j plus plus. I don't require a pair of flower brackets for each for because there is only one statement inside this. Then I'll write scanf %d ampersand a of I j. So how this loop works? It works like this. For each value of I, innermost loop executes n times. So how many times the outermost loop runs? So many number of rows that have been entered. How many times the innermost loops runs? For each row it runs so many columns. So how does the matrix gets filled here? So it starts filling from each row onwards. So first it fills the first row, followed by the second row, followed by the third row, followed by the fourth row. This is how this for loop works. So at the end of this for loop, I have all the elements into a matrix. If you want, you can try to print the actual contents of the matrix. Printf contents. Here scanf, I have not initialized a, I have initialized the matrix as m. Elements of matrix m are, just to be sure whether the input is proper or not, I am writing this code. I less than m, I plus plus, for j equal to 0, j less than n, j plus plus. Here I need to print the output in the matrix form. So I have to first print the rows followed by some spaces. So I'll follow this approach. Printf. So I'm using %4d. What is the meaning of this 4 has been already discussed in the previous videos. You can just have a look into that video. Then after printing each row, I'm supposed to print a new line, \n. So this is how we saw the patterns can be generated. So this logic will now print the total elements into the matrix that have been entered here. This is just to be sure that whether the input is properly entered into the matrix. Now we need to perform the transpose of the matrix. So again we will read the entire matrix of m I less than n, I plus plus. For j equal to 0, j less than m, sorry, I less than m, j less than n, j plus plus. Now as the definition of matrix transpose goes, the I and jth element of M will become j and ith element of T. Hence, I will just write TR of Ji because I need to extend the rows and columns. I is the row represents ith value represents row in M. Now that should become J. That should become column. So in the resultant matrix, I has taken over the position of the column. In matrix M, J represents column. In the transposed version, J should represent the row. Hence, I have written this statement: TR of Ji equal to M of Ij. So this is how you copy the transposed elements from matrix Ij to TR matrix Ji. Next, I'll go ahead and print the matrix TR, and also notice when you swap the values of J and I, even the order of that output matrix would have been swapped. So if the order of input matrix is 2 cross 3, the transpose matrix will be 3 cross 2. So I'll just write another printf: the transposed matrix is for I equal to 0, I less than n. Why is it n? Because the rows and columns have been swapped. For j equal to 0, j less than m, j plus plus, printf percentage 4d m of tr of ij. Use new line to separate out the number of rows. This is the end of the program. Let us now run this program and see whether it prints the transpose of the matrix. There are some errors it is trying to print. Line number 5 has some, let me just, okay. The problem with this is I have created two variables having the same name. So I'll just change it to A. Instead of M, I'll change it to A. So now wherever I used M as an array should now become A. I'll modify this here also. That's it. I'll now compile this. Compilation is successful. Run it. I'll now enter 3 cross 3. So I should enter 9 elements: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So these are the elements: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And you can see the transpose matrix. This row has now become the column of the matrix. 4, 5, 6 second row becomes second column, and 7, 8, 9 being the third row has now become the third column. Let me run this program for a non-square matrix and see whether it works. This time I'll enter 2 cross 4. So I need to enter 8 elements: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You can see here 1, 2, 3, 4 is the first row. Now it has become column in the second matrix, and 5, 6, 7, 8 is the second row which has become second column in the transpose matrix. A word of caution for this program: here the at no point of time your input should exceed this value. So with this program, the size of the matrix being 10, each row and each column being 10, maximum row and column being 10, you cannot input more than 10 rows and 10 columns. So you cannot find the transpose of 11 cross 10 or 8 cross 11. So keep this in mind. At no point the order of the matrix should be greater than these two numbers. We will now see the second problem definition. The second problem definition says write a C program to find the sum of principal diagonal elements of a square matrix. What do you mean by principal diagonal elements of a square matrix? It means the elements which are having the row as well as column count as same. The ones that are highlighted, the cells that are highlighted here are referred to as principal diagonal or primary diagonal elements. You can notice here they all have the same property that the row and column index values are same. These elements are referred to as primary or principal diagonal elements. Now this problem definition says we need to find the sum of principal diagonal elements of a square matrix. Here the explicitly given that the matrix should be of a square matrix. The only reason being for a non-square matrix the principal diagonal element does not exist. So the concept of primary or principal diagonal element comes only for a square matrix. It is not available for a non-square matrix. So I will now create a program named principal diagonal elements.c pde.c. As usual, I will include the necessary header files required for this program. I'll use A as a matrix to store the elements of the matrix. This should be a square matrix, so it is sufficient if I use n as a variable, and I and j are required to navigate the elements into an array. Printf, enter the value of n, scanf. Since it's a square matrix, I just need one value. The same value I'll take it as row as well as column. So enter %d elements \n. This %d should be replaced with n for I equal to 0, I less than n, I plus plus, for j equal to 0, j less than n again, j plus plus, scanf %d ampersand a of I. We can now optionally try to print the matrix. Elements of the matrix are \n for I equal to 0 again, I less than n, I plus plus, for j equal to 0, j less than n, j plus plus, printf %4d a of ij, printf \n. That's it. So I want to now print the sum of principal diagonal elements. For that I use one variable called sum and let its initial value be 0. So in each iteration I need to copy the value of the element whose index I and j values are matching. So I'll have to check if I double equal to j and then take the value of that element and keep on building the sum. So at the end of traversing all the elements of the matrix, I would have the primary diagonal element sum. So I am going to write another logic just to find the sum of the principal diagonal element. You can optimize this code. You can find the sum after printing here itself, or it is better to write separate logic. You can also optimize it anytime. So I will now write one if condition if I is equal to j. Why am I writing this? Because what does I equal to j means? It means I am referring to an element which is a principal diagonal element. So I'll just keep on building the sum sum equal to sum plus a of ij. That's it. Then I just need to print the sum equal to percentage d backslash n comma sum. This is the program. Let us try to run it. So I'm now going to enter n as 3. So 3 cross 3 is 9 elements. So I should have written n cross n there. So I'm going to go to the program now. So here I have just written n. It should be n cross n. Compile it again. Run it. 3. So 9 elements. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You can see here the elements of the matrix are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Especially the principal diagonal elements are 1, 5 and 9. So what is the sum of 1 plus 5 plus 9, which is 6 plus 9, which is 15. Let us try to give another set of input. This time I am going to enter the value of n as 4. I'll have to enter 16 elements. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Again I'll come back. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So these are 16 elements. You can see here the principal diagonal elements are 1, 6, 6 and 1. So what is the summation of 1, 6, 6, 1? 6 plus 6 is 12 plus 13, 1 13 and plus 1 is 14. We will now see the next problem definition. The next problem definition is write a C program to find the sum of two matrices, say A and B, having the order m cross n. The equation for matrix addition is given by C of ij equal to A of ij plus B of ij. An important point to be noted in this problem definition is to perform addition of two matrices, the order of both the matrices must be same. Please note that these two matrices need not be square matrices. They might be of any order, any arbitrary order, but their order must match, and also the resultant matrix order will be the same as the order of A and B. So if order of matrix A is 3 cross 4 for both A and B, the resultant matrix C will also have the order as 3 cross 4. So this summation form represents that cleverly. Ij here represents the row as well as column index. I changes from 0 to m minus 1. J changes from 0 to n minus 1. Similarly, for A and B, the same notations are being followed. So what does this mean is the first element, first row, first element of A is added with first row, first element of B, and that becomes the first row, first element of C, and so on. So let us get started with the program. I'm going to name this program as addition.c. I'll include the necessary header files. Main int. I'll take three matrices now. A represents the first matrix, B represents the second matrix, C, let it represent the third matrix. I will also need m and n for the matrices. I also need I and j. I'll now use printf statements. Enter the order of the matrices or matrix A and B. Enter the order for the matrix A and B, because once I enter the order, both matrix order will be same. Scanf 2 percentage Ds to read m and n. Next I'll enter printf, enter percentage D elements into matrix A. Now I should enter the elements into matrix A. For I equal to 0, I less than m, I plus plus. For j equal to 0, j less than n, j plus plus scanf percentage d ampersand a of ij. The same thing I will have to do it for matrix B. So I'm going to copy this to save the time and paste it. I just need to change over here few things here. First of all, I should write m star n here, which has been missed in the previous printf statement. I'm going to correct it. Next, everything remains same except B. Next, I need to perform the addition of two matrices. For that, again, I'm going to use the for loop. Again, to save the time, I'm going to quickly copy these three lines. Simply paste it over here. Then, instead of scanf, I just need to write C of ij equal to A of ij plus B of ij. This is the end of the addition logic. I need to print the resultant matrix. Resultant matrix C is elements of resultant matrix C are \n. I just need to print the matrix C in matrix form. So I'll just write I less than m, I plus plus. Since I require \n for each row, I use flower brackets for each of the inner and outer loops. J plus plus printf percentage 4d C of ij followed by printf \n. This is the end of the program. A very simple and easy program. Let us run this, compile it, run it. I'll now enter the order of the matrix as 3 and 3. So there will be 9 elements to be entered. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'll have to enter the same elements into matrix B. This should have been B. I need to change it in the printf statement. I'll now enter some 9 elements randomly. 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1, 2, 6. You can see here the matrix A elements are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, 8, 9. The matrix B are 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 1, 2, 6. So 1 plus 2 is 3, 2 plus 4 is 6 and 3 plus 6 is 9. So this is the first row of the resultant matrix. 4 plus 7 is 11 followed by 5 plus 8 is 13. Then 6 plus 9 is 15 followed by 7 plus 1 8, 8 plus 2 10 and 9 plus 6 15. So you can see here this program clearly prints the addition of two matrices. I will now open this program, modify this. Instead of A, I'll change it to B. Then this time I will demonstrate this program for a non-square matrix. This time I'll enter 2 cross 3. So there will be total 6 elements, 2 rows and 3 columns. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can also enter the elements of the matrix in this format, 2 rows and 3 columns. So 4, 5, 6, enter, 7, 6 and 2. So 1 plus 4 is 5, 2 plus 5 is 7, 3 plus 6 is 9, 4 plus 8 is 12, 5 plus 6 is 11 and 6 plus 2 is 8. So this is how easy it is to write a program which prints the addition of two matrices. We will now see the next problem definition, which is write a C program to find the product of two matrices A and B given the orders of the matrix A as m cross n and given the orders of the matrix B as P cross Q. The matrix multiplication is not trivial implementation because the previous problem definition that we saw was matrix addition, wherein it was element wise addition. However, the matrix multiplication is not an element wise multiplication, rather we will have to follow, or we have a different approach for matrix multiplication. So we need to worry about few conditions to be able to perform matrix multiplication, because the orders of these two matrices are different. So if the order of matrix A is m cross n and the order of matrix B is P cross Q, then for a matrix multiplication to be possible, the column number of columns in the first matrix must be equal to the number of rows in the second matrix. What do I mean by that? In this representation of order of matrices A and B, n must be equal to P. I repeat, for matrix multiplication to be possible between two matrices A and B, given the order of matrix A as m cross n and matrix order B as P cross Q, the matrix multiplication is possible only if the number of columns, which is n, in matrix A should be equal to the number of rows in the matrix B, which is P. So the first condition we need to worry about is, given the input, given the order of matrices A and B, the value of n should be equal to P. And also one more peculiar behavior of matrix multiplication is the resultant matrix, which we call it as C over here. The order of the matrix C would be the number of rows in the first matrix and the number of columns in the second matrix. Hence, the order of the resultant matrix C will be m cross q. So these two things we need to worry about while performing the matrix multiplication. And I have tried to represent the equation of matrix multiplication in a simpler form so that we can use this equation directly in our program. So as stated earlier, the order of matrix C will be m cross q. So since I have represented the summation form of matrix C of ij in index notation, so I write I equal to 0 to m minus 1. If you do not want to follow the index notation, you can write I equal to 1 to m. Since C always have arrays indexing starting from 0, I have followed this way of convention. So what you notice here is the order of matrix C of ij, which is resultant matrix, is m cross q. The number of the first summation symbol represents the number of rows and second summation symbol represents the number of columns. Then how do I actually perform matrix multiplication is simply shown over here. Assume that we have matrices A and B as 3 cross 3 matrices. Here matrix multiplication is possible because the number of columns in the first matrix is 3 and number of rows in the second matrix is 3. Hence the resultant matrix multiplication is possible, and the order of the resultant matrix is number of rows in the first matrix and number of columns in the second matrix, which is in this case 3 cross 3. So matrix multiplication is possible. We will now see how to quickly multiply these two matrices. The first element of the matrix, resultant matrix, is obtained using this formula. The number elements in the first row multiplied with the elements in the first column of the second matrix and sum it up. What do I mean by that? I mean the number of elements in the matrix A is 2, 1, 2. You multiply and sum it up with the individual elements of the column of the second matrix. So 2, 1, 2 is the first row of the first matrix. 2, 3, 4 is the first column of the second matrix. So the equation will be 2 into 2 plus 1 into 3 plus 2 into 4. 2 into 2 followed by 1 into 3 plus 2 into 4. So this is the product of sum of products. We have represented this in a sum of product form. The answer I got is 15. Similarly, how did I calculate this 10? It is 2 into, now this will be the first row followed by the second column of the second matrix. That will be the second element of the resultant matrix. So 2 into 1 plus 1 into 2 plus 2 into 3, that turns out to be 10. Similarly, the third element of the first row of the resultant matrix will be multiplied in this way. First column, first row of the first matrix multiplied with the last column of the second matrix. That is 2 into 2 plus 1 into 2 plus 2 into 1. Similarly, to get this element, which is second row first column, I need to multiply this row with this column. To get the value 13, I need to multiply second row of the first matrix with the second column of the second matrix. To get this value, multiply second row with the third column. Similarly, I follow the same thing to get this element. Similarly, I'll multiply third row with second column to get this element. I'll multiply third row and third column to get the last element of the matrix. This is how matrix multiplication is performed. Now let us switch back to this problem definition. Here what you should observe is, since it involves product of sum of products, it at each iteration you are supposed to multiply the each row of the first matrix with the each column of the second matrix and repeat it till all the rows and columns of the both matrices are done. So you can, the actual equation becomes like, it is A of ik into B of kj. It is not a pure equation, it's a equation which will help us to write the program for matrix multiplication. So let us have a look into this. What will be the order of this ik? The order of ik will be the number of columns, the number of rows in matrix A will be m, and number of columns in the matrix A will be p. What about B? When you are multiplying, the number of rows in the matrix B will be p. Note here, this k and this k, they are same. That's why the column of the first matrix will be equal to the row of the second matrix. This is also the condition, n should be equal to q, and j will be from 0 to q minus 1. So when you are multiplying and storing the result in C, the order of matrix A will be m cross p, and order of matrix B will be p cross q. So this is the representation. Now let us see this program. I have already typed this program. We will see whether these conventions have been taken care in this program or not. Program is fairly simple once you know this formula, once you know this representation of matrix multiplication. I have taken three matrices A, B and C, restricted the size of the matrix as 10. I require I, J, K because in this notation we also have K, hence I require the third loop variable which is K. Mn for the order of matrix A, P and Q for the matrix B, sum to find the sum of products. Here I am asking the user to enter the order of matrix A, which I will store it as m cross n. Here I am asking the order of matrix B, which I will store it as p cross q. Next, as I said, the matrix multiplication is only possible if the number of columns in the first matrix should be equal to the number of rows in the second matrix. That means if n is not equal to p, then you can straight away print that matrix multiplication is not possible. You cannot multiply such matrices. If n is equal to p, I'll go ahead and actually enter the values of those matrices. So this code will read the elements of matrix A. Note the order of matrix A is m cross n. So I am reading the outer loop till I less than m and inner loop as I less than j. Same thing I will repeat for matrix B. The order of matrix B is P cross Q. So outer loop will have the test condition as less than P and inner loop will have a test condition as less than Q. So at the end of these two code, I would have entered the elements of matrix A and B. Remember, I am entering the elements of the matrix only if the matrix multiplication is possible. If matrix multiplication is not possible, I am not performing any of these operations. So everything is written in the else part only. Next, I should start writing the code which actually multiplies the two matrices. So this code that you are seeing here performs that operation, and this code is in accordance with this formula. So if you can remember this formula, writing the code becomes very trivial. Let us have a look into this. We are required to build the matrix C of ij, and what will be the order of C of ij? It will be m cross q. So the first two loops have the test condition as I less than m and j less than q. However, to perform multiplication, I require a of ik to be multiplied with b of kj. The element at a of ik will be multiplied with the element at b of kj, and we need to find the sum of products. So how this is done? I have initialized a variable called sum. So in each iteration of this innermost loop, the third loop or the third level of the loop, I am simply performing the sum of products. So you can see here the order of k is given here. It is 0 to p minus 1. Even you can observe here k is 0 to p minus 1. So my innermost loop will look like for k equal to 0, k less than p, k plus plus. Since I require a sum of products, I will write sum equal to sum plus a of ik into b of kj. Why this is required? Because as we saw here, it is row in the first matrix multiplied with the column in the second matrix, which is sum of products. This is exactly what we are doing here. So at the end of this innermost loop, what I have is the sum of product for the first multiplication. So this should go and should be pasted as the first element of the resultant matrix C. That's what I am exactly doing here. This forms the element at C of ij. Next, I have to find the multiplication of the next element, which is in this case 10. So I need to select the first row and second column. So j would be incremented, so it will be pointing to the second column, and I do the same thing, element wise multiplication or sum of products, and store it over here. So this is repeated till all the elements of the matrix are multiplied properly. So at the end of this loop, what we have is we have the matrix C whose order is m cross q. So n should be equal to p for matrix multiplication possible, first condition, and order of resultant matrix will be m cross q. Please remember this fact. This is very important. So after I found the multiplicated result, I will just print the matrix C whose order is m cross q. Hence outer loop will have I less than m and inner loop will have j less than q, and I will just print the value of C of ij. Let us now compile this program and see whether this program gives the output properly or not. I will run this. I'll now enter the order of matrix as 3 cross 3, 3 cross 3, and enter these elements. Since matrix multiplication is possible, we are able to, it is now asking us to enter 9 elements into matrix A. So I'll now enter 2 1 2 3 2 2 4 3 1 1 2 3 2 2 4 3 1 4 3 1. I will enter the second matrix as 2 1 2 3 2 2 4, 3, 1. There you got it. The answer is printed as 15, 10, 8, which matches with the first row of the resultant matrix. 20, 13, 12, second row of the matrix. 21, 13, 15, which exactly matches with this answer. So we have now checked it for the order of matrix being same. Now what if I specify a non-square matrix and see whether matrix multiplication is possible? So I'll now enter the order of the matrix as 2 cross 3. I'll also enter the order of matrix B as 2 cross 3. Now is the matrix multiplication possible? To be able to perform matrix multiplication, the number of columns in the first matrix should be equal to the number of rows in the second matrix. Here 3 is not equal to 2. Hence matrix multiplication not possible. So it will directly print the message matrix multiplication not possible, and it will also not go ahead with multiplying the matrix. Next, I will now enter 2 cross 3 and 3 cross 2. Now the matrix multiplication, is it possible? The number of columns in the first matrix matches with the number of rows in the second matrix, hence matrix multiplication possible. What will be the output of the order of the matrix C? It will be number of rows in the first matrix into number of columns in the second matrix. So it will be 2 cross 2. Let us check this fact. I'll now enter some 6 elements, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'll also enter some 6 elements into matrix B. Now you can observe the matrix C has the order of 2 cross 2. Let us check this for one more input. I will now enter the order of matrix as 4 cross 1 and order of matrix as 1 cross 4. Is the matrix multiplication possible? Yes, it is. So 1 cross 1 matches, 1 is 1 equal to 1 matches, and output of order of matrix C will be 4 cross 4. So let us check this fact. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there you have it. You have a 4 cross 4 resultant matrix. So it is very interesting to note that the input for matrix A is only 4, input for matrix B is only 4, but you got a 4 cross 4 matrix. See, this is a very interesting property of matrix multiplication. We will now try to write a program for the fifth problem definition. The fifth problem definition says write a C program to find the row sum of a given matrix. The order of the matrix is given as m cross n. We will now see what is the meaning of row sum. For this, we will consider this notation of matrix. We had seen this already. Row sum means assume that there are some values which have been filled in these matrix. Row sum is the individual sum of each rows. So this is the first row sum, this is the second row sum, this is third row sum, fourth row sum. So if the elements are some numerical values, so if the number of rows in the matrix is 4, the program should print 4 output. For each row, one sum should be printed. So we need to worry about how to I do this in the implementation. So let us get started. I will now create a program named rowsum.c. I'll type the program. I require only one array. I'll call it as A of 10. I require I, J, M and N, and also require a variable called rowsum. Let me initialize the value of rowsum to 0. I'll ask the user enter the order of matrix. Since there is only one matrix, I'll go ahead and enter the order as M and N. I will now ask the user to enter the values into matrix A or matrix. Enter %D elements M star N for I equal to 0, I less than M, I plus plus, for j equal to 0, j less than n, j plus plus, scanf percentage d ampersand a of ij. Next, I am interested to print the row sum. For each row, I need to print the row sum. To be able to print the row sum, we need to take the sum of each individual elements of each row. However, when we are actually navigating the array, we start from row and navigate till the all the columns of that particular row. So what I am interested is, in the first iteration of the outermost loop, I must calculate, I should start adding up the rows or row sum variable, and in the innermost iteration I simply keep on adding on to it. What do I mean by this is, I'll start with the outermost loop like I less than m, I plus plus. I will, since I want to print the row sum for each row, I will initialize to 0, j equal to 0, j less than n, j plus plus. I know that the inner loop executes for all the columns of that particular row, and row sum requires me to find out the sum of individual elements of each row. Hence, I will write row sum equal to row sum plus a of ij. At the end of this loop, innermost loop, I have the sum of each row. So I just need to print it here, printf sum of first row, sum of row 1. Remember, this percentage d, I am mapping it to the ith value, but ith value is an index, so actual position or row number is 1 greater than the actual index. So I just need to print I plus 1, because I just don't want to print the row as index. This is the program. Let us see whether this produces the correct output or not. So here what I have done, this is the logic which computes the row sum. I will initialize the row sum to variable to 0. Each iteration of the innermost loop executes each columns of that particular row. So I am interested in finding the sum, so I will keep on adding it to a row sum value, and so that in the next row the row sum again starts with 0. If you do not make it 0, it simply prints all the sum of the elements, and at the end of the innermost loop I do have the sum of each row, and I want to print the row number starting from 1, but the value of I here is the index value. So if you keep I as it is, it will print row 0, so the user might get confused. So I am simply incrementing it by 1. This is the logic. Let us see whether it works or not. I'll now run it. I'll enter the input as order of the matrix as 4 cross 4. So I'll have to enter some 16 elements, 1, 2, 3, 4. Some random values I am going to enter. I should have printed the sum, which I have not done it in the printf. So sum of row 1 equal to, sum of row 1 equal to percentage d backslash n. This percentage d is for printing the row number. This percentage d is for printing the column number. Sorry, the sum of the row. So I'll print it as row sum. I'll again compile it. Row sum dot c. Run it. I'll again take 4 cross 4, 4 elements, row at a time. You can just check the answer. 1 plus 2 is 3, 3 plus 3 is 6, 6 plus 4 is 10. Printed the value as 10. 4 plus 3 is 7, plus 2 is 9, plus 1 is 10. 1 plus 2 plus 5 plus 8 is 16. 9 plus 5 plus 2 plus 1 is 17. The program also works for a non-square matrix. Let us have a execution of that. I'll now select 3 rows followed by 4 columns. So I need to enter 12 elements: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So you can see here the it prints 3 on output of 3 rows. So first 4 elements form the first row, which is 10. Next 4 elements form the next row, which is 26, and remaining 4 elements form the next row of the matrix, which is 42. If I enter the same input but change the order 4 and 3, you can see the difference in the output. Now you can see there are 4 rows. So first 3 elements are form the first row. 2 plus 3 plus 1 is 6. 4, 5, 6 is 15. 7 plus 8 plus 9 is 24. 10 plus 11 plus 12 is 33. This is the program to print the row sum. We will now try to write a C program for the sixth problem definition. The sixth problem definition reads: write a C program to read the marks scored by n students in 6 courses in an internal assessment test and print the average marks scored by each student. If you can recollect, this was the problem definition, which was a suggested activity when the concept of programs on nested loops were discussed. You can refer back to that video on discussion of nested loops. We will now try to do this program using a two-dimensional array. In fact, in that video, I had asked you to not to use a, a two-dimensional array or any array to implement this program. So I hope you might have tried that program. Now that program becomes very trivial when we use a two-dimensional arrays. So to understand this as to how to implement this, we will try to see its representation. So this empty table tries to represent each row of this table represents the marks of 6 internal assessment courses for each student. So each row represents the marks of 6 tests for each student. There are 6 columns: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Similarly, there are n such students. So we will try to take a two-dimensional array, and how many rows will be there in that array? The number of rows can be varying depending on the value of n, but the number of columns for this matrix or for this array is fixed, which is 6, because it is clearly mentioned in the problem definition. 6 courses. So the number of columns will be 6, but the number of rows will vary depending on the value of n. So let us now try to write a program for this. And how do we find the average marks scored by each student? You can see here, to print the average marks scored by each student, it simply is the row sum divided by the value 6. So if you are clever enough, you can easily modify the fifth problem definition, which prints the row sum of a given matrix, to easily accommodate the sixth problem definition. In fact, I will try to do the same thing. I will fix the number of columns for that matrix as 6 and take the value of n, and then I just print the average of each row sum. In the previous problem definition, we only printed a row sum. We are now interested in the average. So this was the program that computed the row sum. Now I will fix the number of columns as 6, because there are 6 tests, and let me fix the maximum number of students as 10 for simplicity. Now I will not be asking the order because we are interested in the students. So I'll ask enter the number of students. So that is n. So according to Brown definition, this is n. So I'll just modify this scanf to make it fit n. So now I'll, instead of asking enter percentage d elements, I will ask enter marks scored by percentage d students in 6 courses. Here the outermost loop is number of rows, so it is n. The number of columns is fixed, so it is 6. At the end of this for loop, I would have entered all the information of the marks scored by n students in 6 courses. Now again I need to change it to, here instead of m I need to change it to n. Here instead of n it should become 6. Let me calculate the row sum, and to find the average I need to have one more variable called float average equal to 0.0. Next, after finding the row sum, which is sum of all the marks scored by a particular student in 6 courses, I need to find the average. So I'll write average equal to, since it's an integer division, I need to convert one of the uh, either numerator or denominator to float. So I'll now write it as 6.0. Why 6.0? Because there are 6 marks. So average is total sum of all the marks divided by the total occurrences. So there are 6 occurrences of the marks. So I'll just compute the average like this. So instead of printing row, average of average marks scored by student equal to, this is float. So student, again I am assuming that I is the index, but I want the number student to start printing from 1, so it is I plus 1, and instead of row sum I need to print average, so it becomes average. This is a modification to the code. Let us see whether it works or not. I'll clear the screen. I will rename this program as, instead of row sum, as marks or average marks dot c. Compile average marks dot c, compile it, run it. So I'll just enter, for simplicity, 2 students. So I should have modified this code. Here instead of m cross n, because m is not entered, so it should be number of marks to be entered is n cross 6, and in fact I don't want m at all in this program, so I'll just remove it, run it, enter number of students 2. So 2 into 6 is 12 marks. So I'll just enter 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. So how many marks? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'll now enter odd numbered marks 11, 13, 15, 15, 17 and 19. So if you are aware of finding the average, so the average will be it's actually a median. 14 plus 16 by 2, which is 15, will be the average of the first student, and second one also will be 15. 15 plus 15 by 2 is 15. So let us see. So you can see here it prints the average marks scored by the first student as 15 and second student as 15. So just by understanding how to find the row sum of a given matrix, we were easily able to find the implementation of the 6th Brown definition. We will now try to write the program for the 7th problem definition. The 7th problem definition goes like this. Write a C program to store temperature of m cities recorded over n days and print the maximum temperature recorded by each city in n days. Again, if you notice carefully, this is a modified version of the sixth problem definition. Here, what is given over here is there are m cities and n days. In the previous problem definition, the n value was fixed, which was 6. Here, it is not fixed, rather it is variable. So this can be visualized in this manner. Each row represents the m cities. So this is first city, second city, third city, so on up to m cities. And each column represents the number of days each day. First day, second day, third day, so on up to nth days. So this is how you can visualize. So in other words, this becomes a complete matrix, an m cross n matrix. So m cross n matrix, only difference is m row represents the cities and column represents the number of days. Again, this is a special case of the fifth round definition. Here we are supposed to find the maximum temperature recorded by each city in n days. So what we are supposed to find? In the previous problem definition, we finded the average marks, and in the fifth problem definition we found the row sum. Here we need to of course we need to consider the row, but here I need to find the or print the maximum value that is available in this row. Let us try to write a program for this. I'll name this temp.c hash include stdio.h int main int temperature. The first row represents the number of cities, second column or first index represents number of cities, second index represents the number of days. I require m, I and j, m and n, and also I require the maximum temperature, so I take max also as a variable. I'll now enter from the user, enter the number of cities. Number of cities is m from the problem definition. I'm going to read it as m. Next, enter the number of days, which is n ampersand n. Next, I need to enter the data. Enter the temperature values for, I'll just enter the temperature values. I know that given 2 and 4, so 2 cities are there and 4 days temperature readings. For I equal to 0, I less than m, I plus plus. For j equal to 0, j less than n, j plus plus. Scanf percentage d ampersand a of ij. Next, I'm interested in finding the maximum, so I'll start with the outermost loop. I know that outermost loop navigates the cities. So here let me now consider two approaches, or rather two ways in which I can solve this. One is I can store all this row information into another array and find the maximum value of that, or within each row I can print the maximum value. I'll go with the second approach. So I'll first assume that the first row and first city is having the highest temperature recording. So what do I mean by that? This value in the first iteration, I'll assume that this cell has maximum temperature. Later I will change it depending on the inner loop. In the next iteration, I'll again make the first row, first entry as maximum. In the next iteration, second row, first entry as maximum. In the next iteration, third row, first entry as maximum, so on and so forth. So what changes here is I value changes, but the city remains same because it's always the first column, which is zeroth index column. So I'll assume that the first entry in each row is highest. Then I will navigate the columns. There are n cities, so j plus plus. I will now compare if max is less than a of ij. If this is true, then our assumption of the first element in each row being maximum is false, so I need to update the value of max. Recall when we discussed the program on bubble sort, we had in fact followed this approach. We in fact exchanged it, but we can also follow it this way. So I just update the value of max, a of ij equal to max equal to a of ij. That's it. So at the end of this, I should print the maximum. Maximum max temperature recorded for first city. City percentage D. City represents the ith value is percentage D backslash n. So the first percentage D is I plus 1 because I don't want to print the index value, I want to print the city number, and second one is max. This is the end of the outermost loop. Return 0, come out, compile this. I had considered as a of ij, here I consider it as temp, so I'll change it to a. Compilation successful, run it. I'll now enter the number of cities as 3. I'll enter the number of cities as 3 and number of days as 4. So I need to enter around 12 data. So for the first city I'll enter as 10, 25, 36 and 14. Second city I'll enter these values 15, 8, 19, 27. I'll need to enter one more 36, 45, 49 and 15. So when I press enter, it will display me the answer. Before that, let us see what value it should print. This is the data for the first city. There are 4 days. So out of this, which is highest, 36 is the highest. So it should print 36 as the highest. For city 1, maximum temperature recorded is 36 days. For the second city, 27 should be printed as highest. For the last city, which is third city, 49 should be printed as highest. Let us see whether it happens or not. You can clearly see here for city 1 it is 36, which is true. Second city it is 27, true. And third city 49, true. This is the program to compute the maximum temperature recorded for that particular city. You can easily modify this program. Just one small modification to this entire code can easily print the minimum temperature recorded for that particular city. And interestingly, you can note that all the problem definitions of 6 and 7, they almost entirely rely on the fifth problem definition. If you are comfortable with finding the row sum, finding or writing the code for 6 and 7 becomes very easy. Having gone through these programs, I will now provide you with some suggested activities. You can try these programs as exercises. Let me read them for you. Write a C program to find the sum of secondary diagonal elements of a square matrix. What do you mean by a secondary diagonal elements? This matrix shows both primary and secondary diagonal elements. The cells that are indicated with red color are the primary diagonal or principal diagonal elements. The cells which are indicated with the yellow color are secondary diagonal elements. This problem definition requires us to find the sum of secondary diagonal elements of a square matrix. So you need to find the sum of these elements. Try this as a suggested activity. The second program is write a C program to find the difference between two matrices A and B having the orders m and n. The equations for subtraction of two matrices is given by this equation. It is very similar to the addition program, only code changes. Instead of plus, you just use minus sign. The third problem definition is write a C program to find the column sum of a given matrix having the order m cross n. We had already seen how to find row sum. In the same way, try to find the column sum. Next suggested activity, write a C program to read the marks scored by n students in 6 courses in an internal assessment test and print the highest and lowest marks scored by each student in the internal assessment test. This is the combination of 6th and 7th problem definition. We have understood the 6th and 7th problem definition from the program which we discussed. Then you will be easily be able to do the 4th problem definition. Here you are supposed to print the highest and lowest marks scored by each student. Highest means the maximum marks scored by the student and lowest means minimum marks scored by the student. The last suggested activity is write a C program to store temperature of m cities recorded over n days and print the average recorded temperature of each city. In the program that we demonstrated, it is very similar to the 7th one. However, I am not asking you to find the maximum temperature. Rather, in this case, I am asking the average recorded temperature of each city. With this, we have come to the end of this session. We have now studied several aspects of arrays and seen the use of arrays to solve various problems. Till now, we have covered 1 and 2-dimensional arrays. We will not be discussing arrays that span more than 2 dimensions, that is, multi-dimensional arrays. However, multi-dimensional arrays can be visualized as a special case of 2-dimensional arrays, and the problems on them can be handled the same way as problems on 2-dimensional arrays were handled. In the upcoming sessions, we will see the use of arrays to store the character data. Thank you. Have a nice day.